You know, I didn't necessarily know I was going to make this film when I started off. I thought I was going to make a different film about human beings and our relationships with our animal counterparts. I was blown away by the incident in 2010 where a top SeaWorld trainer, Don Brancheau, came to be killed by a killer whale. I didn't understand why that happened. I think given the lay stuff that I knew about killer whales, which was that they're very highly intelligent and they kind of can bond with people, that incident didn't square with any of that. It was a confusing question that I had. So I kind of entered into making the film with that question. And you know, I don't come from animal activism. I'm a mother who took her kids to SeaWorld. So to me, the process of making the film was like a process of my own discovery about what was really going on. When I was making the film, all I wanted was to tell a truthful story and to let it be fact-driven. And in my mind, that would be the most important thing that I could possibly do, is to sort of tell the truth. And so, you know, I didn't even think to myself, wow, I hope people get this out of it. I just thought to myself, if everybody gets out of it, I guess, what I got out of just learning about this stuff, it's incredible. It's just important to know the truth.
I got involved with the film as a result of speaking out after Don was killed. I think there was a kind of a stepwise fashion how I got into the film, and I did a story with a guy named Tim Zimmerman, who is a great writer for Outside Magazine, and Gabriella happened to read that story, and that kind of was almost created like a framework for her film. And then of course she, you know, brought in more to that, but that's how I got involved. I was so far removed from SeaWorld. I last worked there in 1995, and so when Don was killed, Anderson Cooper was looking for someone that could talk about things, and I didn't have any connection to the industry. I now work as a physician, so I went on the show, and that's how Tim found me. And he also found another guy soon after that named John Jett, and that kind of started the ball rolling, and it blossomed into this great work.
That's one of the first ways that people referred to killer whales or orcas. They referred to them as blackfish, kind of in the Pacific Northwest area. All the old kind of time fishermen and even the First Nations peoples up there referred to them as this. And back then, the fishermen had a reverence for them and a respect for them and kind of stayed away. They were hunting whales kind of in parallel at the same time and really kept a distance from one another. And the First Nations peoples said that this is an animal that is never to be captured and never to be harmed, and they all refer to them as blackfish. So I thought it was, I guess, important to kind of bring that history and some of that sort of mystery and reverence to the title.
And one thing I'd like to add, if you ever look at some of the Haida or Tlingit native art that still exists today, the three animals you see most often are killer whales or blackfish, a salmon, and like a raven. Like it's very, you know, you see that pattern all over the place, and bolo ties and cups and everything like that. So yeah, the history of blackfish goes back to the First Nations people.
You know, when you pull back the curtain on a incredibly powerful corporation that has essentially controlled the message for 4 decades, you know, the truth is a scary thing, and they fought very hard to sort of keep a lot of, you know, a lot of the truth from being out in the mainstream. And so, you know, to me, I just told a truthful story, and I kept it fact-driven, and I, you know, exercised self-restraint, I think, in terms of not putting things in there that would maybe make an audience member freak out or angered or whatnot. So all I could do was just sort of tell a story. A fact is a fact. If they are shocking, scary, revelatory facts, then so be it. You know, then the movie ends up having that sort of soul to it. But you know, it was certainly not my directive to, you know, stick it to the man at all. I mean, in fact, I had a whole different movie in mind when I started this. But I think once you know the truth, your directive is to tell the truth. I learned a lot about their lifespan, you know, about just, you know, I guess whale-on-whale aggression blew my mind. I just couldn't imagine sort of being in an environment where you're having to fight in a kind of hierarchical fashion, and you can't really flee the scene ever. That's clearly that seems like a nightmarish situation to be in. So there was moments like that were pretty revelatory to me.
There's a lot of stuff that Gabriella didn't even include in the piece, for example, about how they break their teeth in captivity, how in the wild they swim 100 miles a day, and Tilikum basically is in an enclosure that's smaller than the room relative to his size that we're all in right now. Could you imagine spending the rest of your life in this small room that we're in right now? It would be pretty horrific. So things like deconditioning, decreased lifespans, broken teeth, collapsed dorsal fins was touched on. Some of those were touched on in the film, but there's so much more to this story, and she's only at the tip of the iceberg. And SeaWorld and the industry in general has a vested interest in keeping the curtain closed because there's so much, I think, brutality that goes on behind the scenes. And this is the first time Gabriella has provided a voice for the orcas.
I like it. I like it. It's nice.